how many UCS people are in here? You have UCS? Rich does. Rock on. So do we. With UCS, a server is not a server anymore. It's a management system. It's a new way of doing things. And so when you get to do technologies like UCS and HyperFlex, a new way of thinking about how to do something, and now ACI, I mean, the danger of putting something like application-centric infrastructure on there as a product is I'm up here giving a sales pitch for why you should buy my product. And with HyperFlex, it's more about, you know, hey, have you looked at hyperconvergence? And then, yes, here's why HyperFlex. This is more of an idea. It's less of here's why Cisco and more of a, hey, let's get together and talk about a new way of doing things. And so keep that in mind as we go. Yes, application-centric infrastructure is Cisco's product. It's called ACI. You've heard us drop that acronym a few times. But it's also kind of more of a generic, like think about application-aware networks. If my networks had visibility into my applications, what kinds of things could I accomplish with them? So totally swiped this presentation, or this slide from Rich. So if you're paying attention, hopefully this looks familiar. But I've had a lot of conversations with different organizations, and this kind of rhetoric can become, if it flew over your head or otherwise you just immediately passed on it because as soon as I see a cloud on there, I'm not interested, or whatever it is, moving at the speed of business. We like to make a big deal out of this in our space because there are a lot of trying to improve their ability to be responsive to business needs, right? I mean, from an IT perspective, and that's a good thing. But again, I want to, we get so caught up in our comfort zone as far as, okay, I got to keep the lights on, got to make sure, my next server purchase fits the budget or whatever it ends up being, that, these kinds of things are like, well, okay, that's great and all. But the problem is this: what value are we providing to our businesses? We are generally not perceived as the most, empowering unit within an organization. Usually we're seen as a drag on the bottom line, right? I mean, let's be honest. I recently sat as training class, phenomenal trainer, has a lot of experience in a lot of ways. He said he was meeting with some, dozens of CEOs, and he was talking to them about IT and their take on IT. And he said, hey, I expect it to be a little negative. There was not one CEO he talked to that night that said, oh yes, there was not one positive. It was always, they are my problem child. As much as anything, it's because all they see, I mean, yeah, it's kind of human nature to like, hey, when things are working, things are great. But when I think of IT, I think of all the times I've lost data or I've had an outage or what have you. But part of it is just we don't communicate very well either. When there is an outage, when there does need to be an upgrade, when our budget needs to go higher than what they wanted it, we don't do a great job of communicating some of that language because we don't have the relationships. We're not thinking about the business. We're thinking about how do I keep my job and how do I keep the lights on. So in a way, I mean, I guess cloud was on the last on the last slide. I don't know how many people have had cloud conversations, but generally speaking, we are somewhere in this vicinity. I see a lot of organizations who, hey, we're virtualized, right? I mean, how many virtualized? Probably pretty much everybody in this room. That's 2008 technology, guys. VMware came out in whenever it was, 2006, 2007. Most people were on board with it by about 2010 or starting the process. And we're probably 5 years removed from significantly virtualizing our environment. And to think that that's 10-year-old technology at this point is kind of stunning. What have we done to move ourselves forward? How are we innovating? How have we innovated since virtualization? Because virtualization was great, but have we moved to some of the examples up here, right? Virtualized desktops, private clouds. What does a private cloud mean? It means more than you think it means. And then hybrid cloud. Are we leveraging public cloud resources? I'm not saying you have to move out to the public cloud. There is a middle ground. There's this concept of hybrid cloud. Use cloud where it makes sense. Don't use cloud where it doesn't make sense. And so many of us are still trapped in 2008 saying, well, this is how I do things, and here we go. Why haven't you looked at UCS? UCS is not just a server. UCS is a new way of doing things. We just mentioned, Cisco's been in the market now for 9 years. They're number one in North American blade sales. They're a server company. If you're not thinking about that, if you're not looking at why they're a number one, because I mean they entered a mature market. I mean I don't want to go into the fast food business because I'm going to get ran out of town instantly, right? Or I might find a little niche, right? The Cisco bigs would have bought it. Remember the Apple servers? Anybody remember those? How long do those last? You know, I mean, if Cisco came out with a Me Too product that was just a, hey, we sell servers too, that would have been Cisco. They would have been out of the market. HP, Dell, IBM, you know, and several others, I mean, they would have been a niche player. They're dominant in the market, and there's a reason for that. So why haven't you looked at it? If you have looked at it, why haven't you pulled the trigger on it? So the question is always, where do you want to be? And this is the conversation a lot of us don't have. We're so stuck keeping the lights on that we don't have time to think about where we want to go and where we want to be. I tell people, hey, you know what? If you tell me you're not going to go into the cloud, that's a cloud strategy. I'm happy, okay? If you tell me no cloud, fine. That's good. That's a cloud strategy. If it's I don't know, I don't even know what I can do with the cloud. I don't know where I might use the cloud. Well, okay, let's talk.